This is Earl Grey Hot, an unofficial Star Trek fan podcast from the Other Side Podcast Network. Daedalus. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Earl Grey Hot, a Star Trek fan podcast from the Other Side Podcast Network. My name is Yannick, I'm the French guy from Switzerland, and joining me this week, as always, for the last 11 times, or 10 or 11 times,
12,
whatever.
Really.
12 is my friend Dave. Hello Dave, how are you?
Hi Yannick, I am very well indeed, thank you. How are you?
I am very fine, very glad to be here. It was not a sure thing as to 5 minutes ago when we lost the droplets that hosts our show notes, our Nextcloud, and our website.
The website, yes.
Yeah, it is back on, so everything is great, and I'm very excited to be recording this episode. And we do have a guest tonight. He's involved in a little project called Open Source. He's also in many of my Telegram groups. He is known by the name of CubicleNate. So please help me welcome Nathan on the show. Good evening, Nathan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Very happy to be here, and we're very excited to have you with us.
Man, I'm really excited. I've been excited for the last almost 2 weeks now since you asked me. I've been almost like, I binge watched a bunch of Star Trek Enterprise just because of your show, and so I blame you for some from lack of sleep. Actually,
you're very welcome.
Yes, you're welcome.
Who needs sleep?
Well,
yes, that's time lost.
If I could cut it out, I could get a lot more done,
and a lot more Star Trek episodes watched as well.
Oh yeah,
yeah, of course. There are so many to watch. Talking about Star Trek, how about we review one episode of Star Trek?
Love it.
Sounds good.
So we are going to review Star Trek Enterprise Season 4, Episode 10, Daedalus. So, in the teaser, Enterprise NX-01 is in orbit of Earth. Captain Archer and Commander Tucker are getting ready to welcome Emory Erickson, the inventor of the transporter, on board the ship. Tucker tells the captain that Erickson's book, Emory Erickson, Father of the Transporter, is the reason why he became an engineer. Upon handling the transporter console, Tucker makes some last-minute adjustments to his Starfleet uniform, much to Archer's amusement, before beaming up the legendary inventor along with his daughter, Danica. Archer warmly greets the two Ericksons, his old friends, and introduces Tucker to both of them. While being wheeled down the corridor by his daughter, Emory hopes that Archer won't mind his borrowing the ship for a test that may make Enterprise, and indeed all of Starfleet, obsolete. So that was the teaser of this show, and we found that Trip actually had his mother read Emory Erickson's book. I think he said every night for a long time.
That is so nerdy. It really is.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't do that. Never.
I would unabashedly read all the books for something like that. I mean, that's just what I would do. So I would totally nerd out.
Yeah, me too.
You'd read them yourself, but you wouldn't necessarily get your mother to read them for you.
Well, yeah, that's true. My mother would probably look at me like I had something wrong with me.
Don't we all?
I have a question.
Yes?
When did they install a wheelchair ramp in the transporter area?
Right before they showed up, because the scene right before that, because I paid attention to this. My mother is actually in a wheelchair, and there was no ramp. I'm like, how are they going to do that? I mean, I know how I would do that, how I would have to manhandle that down. I wonder if they're going to. And nope. They must have beamed one in right before.
They must have done it right before, because there is at least one, possibly even two steps to the transporter pads.
2.
Yeah, 2. So, nah.
Yeah. I love the quote, I always knew you'd be famous. I never thought you'd be more famous than me. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have to say, I loved the very brief exchange between Archer and Tucker. Just as Tucker was kind of like adjusting his suit, it looked like he was going to take a little handkerchief out of his pocket. And and Archer says, "Do you want a mirror?"
Yeah, that was fun. So we are now on Act 1 of this episode. In Enterprise's mess hall, T'Pol is reading a pad. Tucker sits with her and notes that they have not talked to each other much since she returned from Vulcan. She tells him she has been reading the Kirshara, which she finds extremely interesting. Tucker tries to get T'Pol to open up to him about the recent death of her mother, Tiles. T'Pol would rather not and says she doesn't feel anything about it. When Tucker brings up the loss of his sister Elizabeth, T'Pol insists that she sees no point in discussing her situation further, and Tucker decides to leave.
Was that the first time she ever called him Trip? Because I picked up on that immediately, and I don't think she has ever called him Trip before.
That's possible, but we will have to rely on our listeners to tell us if that's true or not.
Maybe that near-death experience in the last episode is probably what made her more less formal.
Yeah, she changed since last episode, I believe. I mean, she said that she found the Kirshara extremely interesting. Yeah, I felt that there was a change in her behavior.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you notice she was sitting in the dark? Because when Trip goes out of the mess hall, you can see the light coming from the corridor, and it was really dark in this place.
I didn't pick up on that specifically.
No? Okay, I just seen it this evening, so I remember that. Right, later, in the captain's dining room, Archer, T'Pol, and Tucker have dinner with the Ericksons. Emory discusses his new invention, the sub-quantum teleportation. So it's the bit of techno jargon here. They're trying to drown us with some weird words.
Yes.
He explains the process as stepping onto a transporter pad on Earth, and a few seconds later, materializing on Vulcan. Emory states that theoretically there is no limits to the distance, which is one of the things he is on the ship to test. Emory believes Starfleet will look quite different after his invention reaches widespread use, if it ever does. Archer recalls Emory and his father having discussions over the future, being in either warp drive or transporter. Emory admits he misses having those talks as well as Henry Archer himself. He raises a toast to his late friend. T'Pol notes that the Vulcan Science Academy never got any result with the subquantum transporting. Tucker admits that it's hard to imagine beaming anyone that far. Erickson recalls that when he developed the first transporter, most people could not grasp it and some still cannot. He remembers when the transporter was first approved for use in biomatter, people gave off a litany of unsafe terms about the device and how he had to fight all that nonsense, as he puts it, but notes that he eventually won out. Tucker then raises his glass and toasts to a successful experiment.
So even at this point, I'm asking myself the question of how genuine this new invention actually is. Because if we're still at the stage now where the existing method of teleportation is considered experimental, then this subquantum teleportation has come out literally out of nowhere. And it just seems a huge jump from being able to transport a matter of kilometers to being able to transport light years. So even at this point, I've got my doubts.
Also, since we have seen the rest of the Star Treks, we know that it didn't work out. That probably also kind of has an effect on your opinion.
Yeah, I was doubtful that this would ever work because, as you said, Nate, we never saw that in any of the series. But the Vulcan Science Academy worked on that, so I thought that something was not going to work, but I didn't know what at that point.
I don't know if I'm allowed to tangent to another Star Trek that's tangentially related.
Of course.
Do you remember the episode of Next Generation called Contagion? I think it was second season. That's the Iconians that could transport anywhere, like just by stepping through a door.
Yeah.
The Enterprise like caught a virus from a probe, and Data got the virus too. And anyway, but it kind of reminded me of that the same transportation thing. I thought maybe there's gonna be some other tie-in with another episode, but it didn't happen. But I was kind of hoping it would.
Yeah, well, I was pretty sure that was not going to work, but I was not expecting what came after that. So, Enterprise is now in a region called the Barrens. As Tucker makes the necessary modification to Enterprise's transporter for the test, Emory recalls the early days of the transporter and how he was the first person to go through. He remembers it taking a full minute and a half to cycle through, and that he could actually feel himself being taken apart and put back together again.
Do you think there'd be pain involved with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounded uncomfortable.
I mean, if your molecules, your atoms are separated, I don't even know how you can realize that. But hey,
you'd think you'd experience that kind of feeling through normal generic transportation. If you're being dematerialized and rematerialized, there's going to be a point where suddenly you realize yourself, I've got no arms.
Yeah, well, you got no nothing because all your atoms are
literally everywhere.
Well, yeah, they're transformed into energy and beam.
Got a tingle. I mean, you ever touched like a? I mean, it's got like it's gonna be like a static discharge feeling or something. I mean, it can't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a side effect. Emory says that he lost his lunch the first time he materialized, then promptly got stone drunk, something he learned from Zephram Cochrane himself. Tucker notes that the experiment is going to require more power than he thought. He asks Emory if he can take a look at his power converter, so the test will not require as much energy. Emory evades giving Tucker the converter and insists he can handle a simple power upgrade himself. At this point, I was like, there's something fishy going on here.
Yeah. He was really cagey right off the bat. I'm like, I wonder what's going on here.
Yeah.
I think Trip even realized something wasn't right. It almost appeared as though Emory was pulling rank on Trip, and Trip didn't know how to respond to it, because I think it was in this scene that Emory said that Starfleet had given him pretty much free reign of the entire ship. So yes. maybe Trip was interpreting that as pulling rank. But his reaction to Emory and the way that he was talking was really, really weird.
Yeah, he didn't know what to do with that.
No.
It was clear because he said, well, I'm going to look at that. And Emory said, no. He said, well, that's my ship. And he didn't know what to do with this information.
Mm.
It was strange. I didn't know what to think at this point, except that Emory was hiding something.
I was thinking, Scotty would never have allowed that.
That's a good point.
No, but I mean, there are some fairly fundamental differences between Tucker and Scotty, though.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. One is Scottish.
Ooh.
Scotty was the best engineer in the world.
Not editing that out.
No. Sorry, Scottish friends. If you're Scottish and if you're a Star Trek fan, send us an email and we will get you on the show. And we can discuss it. We can talk about Scotty all night long. Meanwhile, in engineering, Archer gives Danica a tour. He is surprised that she seems to know as much about his ship as a member of her crew. Danica admits she has read everything she could about Enterprise. When Archer wonders why she has not yet signed on the vessel, she admits she cannot leave her father, especially as he still has not gotten over the loss of his son, Quinn, even though it was 15 years ago. Archer suggests that maybe she should start thinking more about herself. Danica says it's a good advice and she wishes she could follow it. I don't know what this scene brought, except for the information that queen died 15 years ago, but I don't see anything linked to what's coming after that.
I didn't actually make the connection at that point yet, in like knowing that was a precursor to the next scene. I didn't even make that connection at that time.
No, me neither.
Yeah, this scene actually made me do some research and spoiled me for what's coming up in Act 2. But what it did tell me, because I'm not going to spoil our lovely listeners, that would just be cruel. But I did actually find out, and I can't remember whether, I think Archer actually mentions it later on, that Archer and Danica actually grew up together.
Yes, he said when he gives the advice, he said that it's hard to follow advice from someone who chases you in the garden with a
plastic laser pistol. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I wasn't sure why there was such a familiarity between Archer and Danica at this point, but yeah, it's utterly clear at this point. I suppose it does explain the relationship between Archer and Emery to some extent,
and Emery and Henry, Archer's father.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
In the Erickson's quarter, Danica arrives to inject a needle into Emery's deformed back. He notices that she is upset. She admits that she is upset at having to lie to the crew and tells her father that they could talk to Archer, that he might be able to help them. Emery insists that they cannot, as Archer's first duty is to his ship and he would not understand. So I started to see what was coming at this point, even though they still had, I believe they still hadn't said it clearly at this moment.
I'd already spoiled myself by this stage, so unfortunately I already knew what it was about. But I think at this point, I don't think I would have picked it up yet. I don't think I would have twigged exactly what's happening here. But I do remember saying, when Emery said that Archer's first duty is to his ship and he wouldn't understand, I actually shouted out loud at the telescreen, "Why don't you ask him?"
Yeah.
Because for what I know of Archer, and I've known him for 3.5 years, I think he would understand.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's not exactly a play it safe captain.
No.
Are there any?
I think Picard might have been a play it safe captain.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. He's more of a to-the-book captain.
Right.
Is there a difference?
Kirk was not to the book.
Oh, no, Kirk was a renegade. He was a rebel.
Yeah.
I mean, Archer, I think, is essentially a to-the-book captain, but he will take the risks. He knows what his duty is. He knows what he has to do, and he knows that there's nobody else around that can actually help him, particularly during Season 3. He had a lot of decisions to make by himself, because Starfleet wasn't on hand for him. Going back, I think that had Emery spoken to Archer, he may not have been particularly receptive to it, but I think he would have understood it.
Yeah, I think so too. If they had that much history together, I think there's already that familial bond between them. There's no way that Archer would not have listened to him.
Yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, in Enterprise's armory, the lights flicker and go out. Malcolm and Ensign Burroughs notice something in the room with them. Reed takes the upstairs part of the armory and orders Burroughs to take downstairs. On the bridge, T'Pol picks up what could be a form of spatial distortion on F-Deck near the armory. Burroughs looks around and does not see a deformed shapeless matter move toward him until it is too late. He screams and Reed contacts sickbay for medical assistance. Reed turns Burroughs' body over and sees his face has been completely deformed.
It looked really nasty.
It did.
Yeah.
Like melted.
Really,
it was a little disturbing.
A little bit like Emery's back, perhaps.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't even think of that.
No, that you say that, I didn't think of that either.
Yeah, Emery's back really freaked me out because I didn't know what to expect. I knew that he was injured. I knew that he was physically disabled. But I didn't expect to see what I saw, which was effectively the front upper part of a Klingon's head on his back.
So you thought he had a Klingon in his back?
They probably recycled the makeup thing, the apparatus they just put on his back, kind of blended it in.
Yeah. I have to admit, this looked very plastic.
Yeah, well, there's something else in that scene, actually. I was really disappointed by the control panels when Burroughs was walking around. All the control panels on the right-hand side were flickering on and off, but everything was flickering on and everything was flickering off. And I thought that looked really fake. Obviously, I know it was, but...
Well, hold on now. Have you been on a spaceship before when there was a subspace disturbance? Do you really know what it would be like? I mean, come on.
Have you, Dave?
Why do we have guests? Because I always get called up upon.
Because they're great.
Well, yeah, of course. Guess what? I have a question.
Shoot.
Reed had a handheld communicator. Why? Is it normal for Reed to have had a handheld communicator on ship? All communications shipped to intra-ship are done through compads on the wall.
Lights flickered, then turned off. Maybe when there's no light, there's a supposition that there's no power, so he picked up a battery-powered communicator.
He got it out of his pocket.
Maybe he's one of those guys that doesn't turn in his equipment when he's supposed to. You know those people.
Oh, hang on, he's done that before. Oh no, it was him that he dropped the communicator on a planet, didn't he? And they had to go back and get it.
Yeah,
and that was Malcolm.
Maybe he had a dummy cord connected to it and he didn't see it. Maybe he disconnected right before he pulled it out again. This way he wouldn't lose it again.
Like it.
There's a lot of reasons why he would have this handheld communicator.
But I have never seen a member of the crew, even less an officer, on the Enterprise in possession of a handheld communicator on deck.
Perhaps it is some standard procedure when there's a space thingy in the ship.
Space weirdness. It's a space weirdness procedure. It's part of their standard operating procedures.
Exactly.
Anytime there's space weirdness, grab a communicator, a phaser, and a tricorder or something.
I'm trying
There's
to find
a whole book about that.
I'm trying to find that piece of paper that Caroline shoved through the door last week that said "Spacey, wacy, timey-wimey" on it.
C'est ça. That's it. Exactly. Let's move on to Act 2. Near the transporter, T'Pol and Archer ask Emery if he had ever encountered anything like the anomaly that killed Ensign Burroughs out here in the Barrens. Emery replies that he did not and wishes he had an explanation for Captain Archer. He shifts in his wheelchair in discomfort and notes that it is time for his treatment. Danica wheels him away to their quarters. There was something in his eyes when he said that he needed this treatment. I'm pretty sure it was not true.
No, I think that was an excuse to get out of there. He was uncomfortable,
definitely.
Not just because of because when I read it in the notes, it says he shifts in his wheelchair in discomfort, and I immediately thought he shifted because he was uncomfortable with the situation, not because he was feeling discomfort through his illness.
Yeah, he wanted to get out of there.
He apologized. Yeah, I think as he was leaving, he said, "I'm sorry." But I can't help thinking that he was possibly apologizing for more than just unable to provide the insight into what may have caused the anomaly.
Well, I'm not even sure he was really sorry.
I think he was. I think looking at it, I think he was sorry because I think there's you could see some guilt on him. Like he had a kind of a look of guilt.
Yeah, but the way he said, can we do that later? I don't remember exactly what he said. The last thing he said to Archer, like, can we do that later? And then they went away. I thought maybe he was not really sorry. We just wanted to go away to not being investigated or questioned.
Yeah, the less you say, the better. A question not asked is better than a bad answer to a question.
I can use this at work. Alone together in their quarters, Danica yells at her father, telling him that they are responsible for Burroughs' death. Emery tries to make her calm down, but she says that they must come forward with the truth. Emery tells her that she is condemning him to death, and we don't know who him is, but we have an idea now. Danica asks how Emery knows he is not already dead. Emery is convinced that he is alive. He tells her he only needs a couple of days to complete his work and bring Quinn back. She wonders what he would have to say about what they are doing. Emery replies that she'll be able to ask him when they're done.
And the other shoe drops.
Yeah, that's the big reveal.
It is.
That they are trying to bring Quinn back from... Well, we don't know what exactly at this point, but we can imagine.
At this point, I'm like, I'm sure that anomaly is related because that's how it works in Star Trek. That's the trope. And then how, like the details, now I'm waiting for the details to kind of trickle in so I can understand what's going on here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because when we first saw Danica argue with her father, I was a bit surprised that she was in on the secret. She was acting so natural with Archer, and then in fact she was lying to him. But now we know that she's really angry about that. So
you can see it's really bothering her that she's having to act this way towards Archer. And I don't know whether it's because it's Archer and because of the history that they've shared in the past, or whether it's just that she's genuinely a kind person and doesn't like lying to people in general. But I think it is more than that. I think it is the fact that he is a family friend. They've grown up together. His dad was a friend of Emery's, and I think she is really, really struggling with the fact that they are deceiving him. There's no grey about this. They're absolutely outright deceiving him, and she just can't handle that. And
it's not a little deception either. It's a big deception with, the actual truth about Quinn's death or whatever, Quinn's status. So it's layering of lies that I think that she's uncomfortable with.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Later, Tucker and Emery begin work on the test, air quotes, by beaming a probe to predefined target coordinates under the supervision of the bridge. The probe was beamed 40,000 kilometers away from the Enterprise. According to Tucker, nothing has ever been beamed that far before. To celebrate, he offers to take Emery to the mess hall to eat. Emery refuses, opting instead to view the data as it comes in. Tucker offers to bring something back, but again, Emery turns him down and asks him politely to stop distracting him.
This is happening too often. It's happened at least once before, where Starfleet has granted a civilian, a non-Starfleet person, aboard Enterprise, giving them free reign of the ship to do pretty much what they want to do with it. And they're doing it without supervision. It happened... I can't remember whether it's season 1 or season 2. There was a handful of aliens from another civilization came on board to tweak or upgrade their warp reactor, and it was exactly the same circumstance where they've come on and they've done all this stuff. They've dismissed the person in charge. They've got on with what they're doing. Are they really to be trusted? Why are we trusting these people?
Politics in the 24th or 22nd century, it doesn't change. I guess you got somebody who's got a vested interest someplace else. That's got to be it. But I think, are you talking about the Traveler who took the Enterprise far away? And then there's also the Binars who were doing a core upgrade and stole the ship.
I was thinking about those two. Yeah.
The Enterprise D.
But the Binars, they had an excuse because they said, if we asked, you could have said yes or no and no in between. So, they only had one or two choices and they chose the we steal the ship choice.
That's like a third choice.
But the Traveler was exactly the same thing. Although the Traveler was an alien, and he was with a Starfleet engineer, I guess.
Yeah, he was with an engineer. Yeah, some sort of a technician of some level. The Kaczynski.
Who had full access to the ship and dismissed La Forge as soon as he came on the ship.
Right.
In Archer's quarters, Tucker enters, now suspicious of Emery's true motives. He tells Archer that all the work Emery had him do was not necessary for the test. His subquantum version of the transporter should use less energy than a normal transporter, which is one of the reasons it is so brilliant. Tucker suspects that Emery's test is a smokescreen for something else. Archer admits that he now, too, has suspicions about his old friend. Emery's earlier claim that he never encountered the anomaly was not the truth. 5 years prior, a crew member on his research vessel has seen something similar to the form that appeared on Enterprise. The crew member said it seemed to be alive. Just then, T'Pol calls Archer and tells him that they are picking up another anomaly on C deck. It took a while for Trip to realize there was something wrong. I mean, it's at least the second time Emery turns him down, turns his help down, he wants to be alone. Archer is now suspicious too.
I don't know. I think Trip was suspicious long before this.
Yeah, I think the first time someone turns you down for food, that's a recipe for suspicion. Although, I mean, they just did the test, and Trip wants to run away and get food right away. That seemed a little odd to me, though, too. It's like, geez, dude, can't you kind of, chill a little bit?
Well, it said that it would take a few hours before the data completely came back.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Good point.
Yeah, but it doesn't surprise me that Trip, the first thing he suggested was food at all.
Yeah, good point. He's a healthy eater.
Also, they beamed the probe 40,000 kilometers. Is that? I think that's the maximum range of a transporter from previous or other series.
It could be. It seems like it was in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the figure was.
Well, it's a random number as always, but I think this one is consistent. Anyway.
It should be
at least.
It should be 47,000 kilometers. That's what it should be, because that's everything in Star Trek has a 47 in it someplace.
That's true. Yeah, but well, we'll talk about that later at the end of the episode. Let's remember 40,000 and 47,000. So after T'Pol calls them, Archer meets up with her and with two Makos. The Mako splits up and Archer warns them to not let the anomaly touch them. Archer and T'Pol go into the decontamination chamber and are cornered by the anomaly. T'Pol analyzes it and discovers that it's highly unstable and surrounded by a subspace field. The anomaly passes through a door, but touches T'Pol's hand and she yells in agony. Later, T'Pol is being treated in sickbay. Dr. Phlox notes that she is fortunate she did not sustain prolonged contact. T'Pol tells Archer that she managed to take visual readings of the anomaly with her Vulcan scanner. Upon being projected onto the main sickbay monitor and visually enhanced, Archer recognizes the anomaly as being Queen Emery's son.
Dun, dun, dun.
And the other shoe drops.
That's 3 shoes.
Well, it's a 3-legged something.
Yeah, okay.
Have we already had the discussion about footage of whatever and the ability to enhance it to the point where it was clearer than it was when it was first recorded?
Yes, on the episode where you went alone, where I was rebooting my computer or whatever. When you talked about security cam
when you came back and said, yes, I agree with you, Dave, yes.
Yes, on the security cam on...
Search for Spock.
Search for Spock.
Yes. Yeah, well, same thing.
It's part of the...
Same thing, yeah.
It's part of the 22nd century Google Analytics package that they put on the Enterprise.
Of course.
That explains everything.
Yes. So... Google Analytics can move the cameras to okay, that's fair enough. I accept that.
It proves that Google is still a company in the 24th century.
Yeah, they actually funded the warp program.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Did you realize that? So T'Pol's hand is deformed, same as the poor insane that died earlier. But after that, we never hear again about that.
That's because Dr. Phlox is a miracle worker. He just put it all together, got an iron out, just kind of rub that thing down with a hot iron and put it right back to where it should be.
Probably, yes.
But she's also a Vulcan and female, so it'll just be a case of, yeah, whatever, scratch.
And she's reading the Kirshara. Maybe that helps too. But yeah, no, I thought they might have, I don't know, do something with that, but no, it just disappears.
At least like keep it in a bandage or something, I would think would have been like a good, continuity bit, but whatever.
Yeah.
I just write those things off. I'm like, it's Hollywood.
Are we sure we don't see it again? Because I don't remember seeing it, but I wasn't looking for it.
I did kind of look for it, but I didn't see it again, no. Even in the last scene when she's back in sickbay, didn't see it. But maybe I didn't watch close enough. I'm gonna have to watch it a third time. Anyway, Act 3. Archer confronts Emery with this new information in his assigned quarters. Emery admits to lying to Starfleet and the captain. He has not come aboard to test a new transporter. He is on the Enterprise to bring his son back. He explained that he was conducting first trials 15 years ago, and Quinn wanted to be the first one to go through the transporter. Emery lost his signal and couldn't get him back. Emery admits that the subquantum transporter is a fundamentally flawed concept and it will never work. He then explains that the Barents is a subspace node, a bubble of curved spacetime, in which Quinn's transporter signal is trapped. The signal reappears at certain intervals, and if Emery could lock on the signal, he could bring Quinn back. Archer tells Emery he should have trusted him, but Emery replies that Starfleet would not have authorized the mission. Air quotes again. Emery says all he needs is one more scan, and he can bring Quinn home. He begs Archer to let him try. So, yeah, he really begs at the end. He's like, I was going to say like a child, but, he said, please help me. I believe he was really concerned for his son and really wanted Archer's help. He was really honest at this point.
It certainly seemed genuine, yes.
Agreed.
To come back to what you said earlier, he said, Archer said, you could have asked me. And that would have been the obvious thing to do, but, he didn't.
Well, they had to have him not be honest because that would have cut out a good 20 minutes of the show. And so that was required, and then the build up, the mystery.
Yeah.
It's needed in Star Trek.
There was, I don't remember if it was in a book or if it was in a Next Gen episode where Scotty...
It's a Next Gen episode. It's called Relics.
That's the one where he puts himself in a loop in a transporter?
That was a fantastic episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
Conversations between Geordi and Scotty. Oh, it was great.
Yeah. So, Dave, if you haven't seen this episode, Scotty, for whatever reason, locks himself in a transporter, and the Enterprise find the ship. Is that
crashed on a Dyson sphere?
And they find the ship, and they are able to determine that there is someone in this transporter, which by chance was powered for the whole time, and they managed to get the people from this, and it's Scotty, and I thought there was someone else with him, but
there was someone else with him, but that pattern it degraded, of course, because that's
of course
because he wasn't the main character. He's probably wearing a red shirt, so that's what happens.
Yeah, and probably had the name.
Yeah,
I've added that to my watch list.
Is it in this episode that they are using the holodeck to recreate the original bridge of the Enterprise?
Yes.
Well, the bridge of the original Enterprise, and it was really awesome.
No bloody A, B, C, or D. That's actually what Scotty said. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so that's not Enterprise. That's Star Trek Next Gen.
Sorry.
Go watch this episode. It's called Relics.
Shall do.
In Archer's ready room, he orders Tucker and T'Pol to help Emery with whatever he needs. Tucker angrily chastises Archer, telling him that had Emery alerted them to the dangerous anomaly in the Barents, Burroughs might still be alive. Archer says all they need is one more day to get Quinn back. If they do not attempt it now, Quinn's signal will be irretrievable. That's a complicated word. As it has been decaying for the past 15 years, Archer orders Tucker to get started. What was wrong with Archer? I mean, okay, he's a friend of Queen's, but it seemed really, going from suspicious and so on to now we have to help him, whatever the cost, whatever he needs. I thought it was too strong of a change in just a few minutes. So maybe there's something that we were not told, or maybe a scene that was cut?
There was a death of a crewman on the ship. Crewman? What? How do you call it? Crewman? A crew dude. And I think that probably had a incredibly negative effect. I mean, that's a lot of paperwork when somebody dies in the military, I can tell you what. So, I mean, there's it had to have really ticked him off.
He did mention it in the previous scene. He pointed out to Emery that one of his crewmen had died as a result of basically his lie. So yeah, he probably is really angry about that.
Yeah, and yet he orders Steeple and Trip to do whatever Emery wants. So I don't know. I thought it was strange.
Well, you still have the familial history between them, so that's going to have a really strong pull. I mean, it can be a hugely strong pull based on the pre-story there. Is that the right word for it? The build-up, how they were talking about their past and how, chasing each other around with plastic laser pistols and whatnot. So there's already that. They really established that there's a strong familial bond there, that I think that's why he did it. And probably, I'm guessing that Archer wanted to see Quinn again if the possibility did arise. I'm sure there's a relationship there as well.
I understand that, but still I thought this change was too extreme. I mean, it could have, asked them, as he usually do, ask them to do something and remind them that he's the captain, but in a less strong way.
But Tucker was giving quite a bit of pushback, though. I mean, Tucker was visibly, I think he was almost bordering on insubordinate, I would say, which he did a lot anyway.
Archer accused him of being really close to insubordination. But yeah, Archer's... See, I don't know whether... I can't say whether Archer was being unreasonable about this at all. Because if you think about what Emery had to lose by going ahead with this, it was nothing. Because now that he'd informed Archer of what it was that he was going to do, whether Archer let him continue to do his final scan or not, Emery still would have been picked up by Starfleet, still would have had to go through whatever punishment, trial, whatever it is that he's going to be going through anyway, regardless. But I think that because Archer probably feels like he's been backed into a corner here, where he feels he hasn't been given any choice in the matter because of the familial element, that actually he's now angry with himself for allowing this to have happened in the first place, even though we know it's not his fault. That his reaction towards Tucker, and to some extent to Paul, it's completely outrageous.
That's Archer realizing that he needs to help his friend, his father's friend, and maybe, as you said, have a chance to see Quinn again.
Yeah, he actually was like a second father. So there's a lot of there's probably, I would say in Archer's mind, the other part of the other factor of that anger there is probably so much trust that Archer's had in him, and now that trust has been compromised. A little bit like his plating on the ship when it gets bombarded.
My trust in you is now 73%.
Polarize my trust.
Coolant leak.
Back in the transporter, Tucker is grudgingly helping Emery to complete the modifications. Emery asks him to reserve judgment on his actions until the engineer loses a son. Tucker tells him forcefully that he had indeed lost someone close to him, and he would do almost anything to get her back, except put other people in danger. He eventually heads to engineering, leaving Emery alone.
Yeah, that was a really dumb thing for Emery to say.
Yeah.
Whether he knew about what happened to Tucker's sister or not, is not an appropriate thing to say in any circumstance.
I agree.
You won't understand until you've had it happen to yourself, because you don't know the person you're speaking to.
Right.
Emery doesn't know Tucker, not to that extent.
Yep.
In the captain's quarters, Danica apologizes to Archer for lying and inadvertently causing the Enterprise crewman's death. Archer accepts it and states that while they can't get Burroughs back, some good may still come out of this with Quinn's rescue. Danica tells Archer that getting Quinn back is all her father has thought about for the last 15 years. Archer hopes that with Quinn coming back to his father and sister, Emery and Danica can finally think about something else. Yeah, it was the continuation of the previous scene where Archer is now completely in with the plan. So yeah, even though he lost someone, a crewman, I mean, it's back to the Archer that we were used to know, that's trying to get everything positive, the most positive things possible out of the situation. And yes, it's sad that that Burroughs died, but if they can bring Queen's back and maybe discover some things at the same time, then he's all for it.
Maybe hopefully Burroughs was like an orphan, he had no family or friends. Maybe he was one of those crewmen. Then this way it's not so tragic for everybody else.
Well, it never sounds really tragic when one of the red shirts die on Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm thinking about it, like in all my Star Trek watching, how many people have died and how plastic has the reaction been to somebody dying? Really?
Does that not disturb you, though? The fact that we're almost accepting the death of a Starship crewman as acceptable because of the color of his shirt or her shirt.
That is very true. But like, what are the stakes, though? I think, like, when the Borg are slicing open your ship and pulling things out, you probably have a little more leniency toward that, like understanding, because a giant something has just ripped out chunks of the hull. But like, accidents, or I mean, they go exploring and just get catch diseases too. I mean, that's just what happens in Star Trek. You're going to die. They're
explorers. Exploring is a dangerous thing to do. I mean, technically, Burroughs didn't have a red shirt. He had the overhaul.
That's the Star Trek Enterprise red shirt equivalency.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he probably had the red line on.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
The pips or whatever.
Well, it's good to know that even though we're in the past, we're in like one of the earliest parts of the Star Trek timeline, that the scriptwriters have been consistent with what's happened in the future in previous episodes. That they're keeping up with this concept of the red shirt.
Actually, they stole that from actual militaries. I don't know if you're aware, that whole idea of different colors. Oh yeah, so I can't speak to the militaries over there on the other side of the pond, but on ours, different jobs, like different. If you're I think infantry, it's like a cyan colored blue. I think artillery is another color. I don't know all the colors actually. I know that my branch, which is civil affairs, that one's purple. So there are different colors for different branches in the military. So it would make sense that maybe instead of having the entire plethora. All this entire palette of colors, they kind of narrowed it down to 3. So that actually seems more reasonable than what we have today. You just don't see it very often. It's only in their dress uniform.
So, question, why did they change that in Next Gen? Next Gen, the red are the science officer and the security is yellow.
This is my guess. They wanted to seem like the captain just might die, so this is a more intense show. I have no idea.
Because Picard is red.
I think, isn't red seem like a more formidable color than yellow, though? Like, red seems more important to me than yellow, just in general.
More dangerous.
Yeah.
But the colors are shared, even in Next Generation. So, Geordi was yellow as well.
Right, but he was red initially. Yeah. I think when you're in like some sort of a command role, or like, let's say a career track, I think you have like probably command career tracks. Then you have like technical career tracks, security career tracks, science and medical. I think so. Like science and medical, that's blue. Next Gen. Mm-hmm. In yellow, they'll have like Data was operations, which I would think that would actually be a red, like thinking about it from my understanding of the military. That seems more like a command function, operations. But that aside, maybe because he was more science, I really don't know, because maybe then shouldn't he have had a blue shirt instead because he was more science or technical, like engineering, or maybe more engineering. Engineering is yellow.
Should have a rainbow shirt.
Worf is yellow as well.
Right, but he's tactical and security.
Yeah. I did actually look into this, and the command colour is shared by another non-command role as well. Because there's only like 3 or 4 primary colours for... in fact, no, it's 3, isn't it? 3 primary colours for the uniform.
Yep. Actually, all of them. Interesting.
Okay, back to our review. In engineering, T'Pol hands Tucker some power conversion tables to help with the transporter modifications. Tucker tells her he is trying to decide what to show on movie night. T'Pol tells him she doesn't think she'll have time for that for either movies. Tucker tells her she can't stay in her quarters all the time reading the Kirshara, that she joined Starfleet to be able to interact more with humans. She tells him she may have found some new priorities and leaves for the bridge. It was strange scene. Well, not strange, but strange behavior from T'Pol. It seemed that she was trying to avoid Tucker, avoid contact, like if she was, well, which she probably was, like with something, a book or something that she wanted to, but she couldn't let go of. In this case, it's the Kirshara. But I
think that at this stage, though, based on the previous, story arc, I think her emotional control has been compromised, and I think maybe she is not able to compartmentalize like she was able to previously, or she's just avoiding so she doesn't have to flex that compartmentalization muscle. That's my guess anyway.
But she's mellowed out. She has mellowed out significantly. She's not gone back to her usual very straight-faced Vulcan self. I mean, I'm not talking season 1 style.
Yeah.
But even before the very early parts of season 4. But yeah, she's mellowed out to the point of almost being human.
Right. More compassion, more empathy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Less like she has to be pushed down a flight of stairs.
Yes. Yes. But I wonder whether that's part of the reason why further up the earlier in this episode, the fact that she called him Trip and not Commander, I think was indicative of what it is that we're discussing at the moment.
It could be.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I agree with the she's mellowed out. She's likable now. Well, she was before.
Well, I know, but
she's as Dave said, she's more human. Right. Yeah. So to wrap up Act 3, we're in Launch Bay 1, where Archer is pushing Emery around in his wheelchair, looking for Quinn with a scanner. T'Pol tells the captain that she had picked up something in his area, but it had disappeared. Suddenly, the lights in the bay flicker and Quinn appears. His father tries to speak to him, but the anomaly goes into a wall and causes a massive explosion in front of Emery. Archer pushes him out of the way, saving his life. End of Act 3.
So Quinn has been moving around the ship like, and bear with me here because I've got to get this right, a free-floating, full-torso, vaporous apparition.
Ooh, nice.
For, if anybody can get the quote, the reference to that, I'll be impressed. For absolutely ages, going through walls, going through doors, going through people. And then all of a sudden, he floats into a wall in engineering and blows a stuffing great hole in it.
Yeah.
Well,
I noticed that, yeah.
Maybe he hit a plasma conduit, and the plasma plus his, there's always plasma conduits in the worst possible spot,
Remember that T'Pol said that he's surrounded by a subspace field, so subspace, antimatter, plasma, maybe.
Okay.
I have a better thought. The writers put it in there with no real good reason.
There it is. There it is. I'm perfectly happy with that explanation. It's in the script.
They needed Archer to save Emery's life, so.
Well, yeah, obviously that was the end result. That's the reason they put it in there, to give Archer an excuse to save his life, yes.
Yes. So, in Act 4, Tucker tells the captain that the anomaly knocked out an APS junction. There you are. APS junction and anomaly
Ding, ding.
don't go well together. He cannot believe Archer is still going through with the plan. Archer angrily tells him that they will not be arguing about this subject again. Tucker tells the captain that Quinn just barely missed a stack of torpedoes, which would have destroyed the ship. Archer maintains that when they retrieve Quinn, those distortions will stop. Tucker suggests that Archer is putting his personal feelings before the safety of Enterprise, and the captain tells his chief engineer he is very close to insubordination, and angrily orders him to do his job.
Yeah, so this is obviously, I've got my thing earlier on from that.
Yeah.
I've
and
placed that in the wrong place in the review.
It's close enough. It was also an even act, so that's fine. Because Act 2, this is Act 4. You can do that. It's a multiplicative issue.
Let me make a note of that one. So, use that as an excuse in future shows, because I'll probably make the same mistake
Nate
again.
said we can talk about things in
the wrong order. It was slightly out of phase, so we can do that in Star Trek. When things are out of phase, it's okay. You just have to reverse the polarity and everything's fine.
Well, to be honest, we could apply this to anything, because it's an even numbered act, plus or minus 1.
Yeah. Right, yeah, see?
It's 4, give or take 3. In Emory's quarters, he tells the captain he got what he needed on his scanner, so they should be able to get a solid lock when Quinn reappears. Emory apologizes for putting so much onto Archer and that he does not deserve it. Archer tells him to make this worthwhile, they need to get Quinn back. Emory admits he is very scared about bringing his son back, about something going wrong and failing. Archer recalls a piece of advice his own father gave him the day he entered flight training, when he asked him basically the same question. Don't fail was the response from Henry Archer.
Such a helpful response, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I've heard that before. I'm not sure it was on Star Trek, but
Picard said something similar to Data at one time.
Yeah.
Things are only impossible until they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very helpful when you're looking for advice, but So, standing at the transporter console, Archer, Danica, Emory, Tucker, and Phlox are standing by, waiting for Quinn to turn up somewhere on Enterprise. T'Pol reports nothing initially, then finds a distortion on B deck. Locking on, Emory and Tucker beam the shapeless mass into the transporter chamber. Something goes wrong, however, and Tucker does not have a strong enough signal, so Emory has him recalibrate the confinement bin. They have to throw some jargon in there, so just to
technobabble
once again to technobabble.
Found to non-native English speaker,
right?
Yeah, I'm sure they did that just for me.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, that's life. Phlox is reading massive cellular deterioration in Quinn, and he is losing cohesion. If he is materialized, he will die within seconds. Emory tries a few technical solutions, but Archer, Phlox, and Danica try to persuade him to let his son go, as there is nothing he can do to save him. Emory cannot bring himself to do it, but finally beams him aboard, apologizing to his son. Quinn materializes and promptly collapses. Emory goes to his son's side and begs him to forgive his father. Quinn dies in his father's arms, and Emory closes his son's eyes and breaks down in tears.
So Quinn clearly had no concept of where he's been for the last 15 years. If he's appeared and suddenly what's the matter, Dad? Effectively,
yeah. As Emory said earlier, he hasn't aged a bit, so probably he didn't realize he was trapped into a transporter beam, which is coherent with what we see in Relic, because when Scotty gets out of the transporter, I don't think he knows how long he's been there.
Because he even said he thought Kirk sent the Enterprise after him in that one. Yeah. So I imagine that Quinn then didn't have any clue of any time displacement.
Absolutely. Now that's something. It's strange because they spent like 3 minutes trying to beam Quinn in, and then at the end, he say, "Oh well," and he pushes the button and he beams in. So, is there something I missed, or
It was a little anticlimactic. It would have been nice if there had been something, I don't know, like some sort of a connection between Quinn and his father. That would have been nice to see some kind of a, something happen there.
Yeah, I agree.
Did seem a bit rushed.
Yeah. Maybe they realized they were 44 minutes in and they had to finish.
Someone is going, gotta wrap it up. Gotta wrap it.
Yeah.
The thing I mentioned earlier about the free-floating full torso vaporous apparition was that was actually a quote from Ghostbusters. The
Which one?
The first one. The ghost in the library, right? Quite early on in the film.
Yep, Slimer or whatever.
No. Before that, there was a like an old woman.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
But I'm going to reference Ghostbusters again. At least it's not the search for Spock this time. Emery said, and I quote, "I can reverse the damage by cross-phasing the stream. Never cross the streams."
You're right. Yep.
Never. And yet they do that at the end of the movie too.
Yeah, they did, and that's what solved the at the end of Ghostbusters was crossing the streams.
Absolutely.
So maybe you never do it unless it's like it's kind of a Hail Mary on that one. It's like whatever it takes.
Never do it until you do it.
Actually, was that the scene where Emery said, "I can reverse the change by crossphase in the stream"? Tucker said, "The transporter can't do that," and Emery said, "I built the thing."
That sounds right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That made me chuckle.
Later, Archer visits Emery in his quarters. Emery has come to terms with the loss of his son, stating that he could not leave Quinn in between life and death. I think he said that it's better to be dead or alive, but not nowhere in between. He suppose he accomplished his goal of bringing his son home, although I guess he would have preferred to bring him alive. However, Emery will have to answer to Starfleet for his actions. Archer believes with all of Emery's accomplishments, Starfleet will take that into account when determining his punishment. Emery also realizes that as he let go of Quinn, he will have to let go of Danica as well. He considers becoming a teacher, something that Archer thinks is going to be good at. And I liked the quote when he said, "I don't have to be miserable alone. I can spread the misery on the whole classroom."
Yeah, that's my quote of the episode.
Yeah. In sickbay, Phlox tells T'Pol that he cannot find any trace of the Pannar syndrome.
Closure, finally.
Yeah. T'Pol says it's difficult to accept. Phlox notes that she was diagnosed with an incurable disease and now it's gone, so it's a big adjustment. Another nice quote of the episode. Vulcans all over their home world with Pannar syndrome are coming forward because of the Kirshara, no longer afraid of the stigma that was attached with it. Phlox notes that T'Pol and her people are re-examining their core beliefs, which is something most individuals never do. So that's here that I was thinking, we were going to see her hand or is going to talk about that, but no, they don't talk about it, and I didn't see anything on her hand.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
So it was a really good ointment. It was a 22nd century ointment that really takes care of things.
Maybe they synthesized a new hand for her or something.
Oh, yeah, they could.
Something, yeah. Does that get into the category of things the food synthesizer can do?
Yep.
T'Pol comes to engineering to speak to Tucker. She tells him that she is going through some very complicated issues and that she is learning for the first time what it truly means to be a Vulcan. With this profound realization, she tells him they will not have time to pursue a relationship. She does not clearly say that, but that's what she means. Yeah. Tucker tells her that he understands, that he knew that this was coming. And a third quote of the episode for me, "At least my warp engines still need me."
Yeah. And I it's probably one of my favorite points in the episode. I think I mentioned last week, I am an absolute hopeless romantic, but I thought that was a very surprisingly human thing for T'Pol to have done, let alone said, to have actually taken the initiative, gone and had that conversation with Tucker, almost managed to say what she meant to say. Such a human thing.
Yeah, and the way she started this exchange, it was not Vulcan at all. She came and she said, "You have a minute to talk," or something around that, and very, very human. Not like the 2 or 3 episodes before when she said, "Have you news from your parents?" or something like that. When she
really, really awkward small talk,
awkward Vulcan conversation starter. Yeah. Right. The last scene of this episode. Emory and Danica bid Archer and the Enterprise crew farewell. Before beaming to the Sarajevo, Emory hands Tucker a pad containing information about boosting the transporter's range a few hundred kilometers. Trip says he'll check it out. Archer wishes the Ericksons good luck, and Tucker beams them away. And then Archer, Tucker, T'Pol, and Phlox walk away from the transporter and down the corridor, and it's the end of the episode.
I was expecting to see a scene in that episode between Archer and Trip to kind of close off the minor altercation from earlier on. But
yeah.
I understood that they've been in deep space for 4 odd years. This is probably a regular occurrence aboard a starship, particularly when you're that far from home. And it reminded me of one of my former managers who was also one of my best friends, with a very similar situation that Trip and Tucker have at the moment. And he said to me once, "It's very easy to separate my roles as your manager and as your friend. If you do something wrong, yes, I'll tear a strip off you, but then I'll take you down the pub and buy you a pint."
I had a senior enlisted man, a friend of mine. He was the first sergeant. I was just a sergeant. And it was very much like that in the office or whatever when we were in military mode, deployed overseas. He was the boss, and that's just how it was, and he tore me up several times, and he would, but I mean, he could do it. He was a, Army Ranger, and, I didn't want to challenge him because he could literally tear my head off. So, but then outside of that, we were friends. We hung out and then, worked out in the gym, whatever. But on duty, the relationship was different. There was not that same, maybe moments of, where the friendship does kind of bleed through. But for the most part, it was all business. You do your job, and that's it. So I understand that role flipping, and that to me didn't seem foreign to me at all, because I understand that kind of thing. Those are the most professional people you can work with when they can actually hold those two roles, because you have a much better, much stronger camaraderie. Should the unfortunate happen.
It's understanding the circumstances, isn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't need to have a closure to that particular incident because
there already was.
They walked away from it. It was already done. It was already finished.
We noticed that between Trip and Reed last episode.
Week.
So coming back to this 40,000 and 47,000 kilometers, the transporter already go like 40,000 kilometers. That's what they did with the test. And then Emory gives a Trip something that will boost the range a few hundred kilometers. I mean, what's a few hundred kilometers when you can go 40,000?
When you're just at the edge, you might need that extra couple of 100 kilometers.
Yeah, that's
kilometers
true.
Not a short distance by itself, especially if you have to walk it. Through the woods.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
At night, under the rain.
Through a swamp.
In winter.
What's the length of a starship? That must be cracking on for a kilometer.
No. I want to say the oh golly. I think I just bumped into my Trek limit here. But I know the Enterprise was not a kilometer in length.
So, what does our friend at Memory Alpha tell us? It's live, ladies and gentlemen. It's live research on the internet. Whether this stays or not in the episode is up to Dave. It doesn't say.
No, I'm looking at the article and I can't see any dimension.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Length 225 meters.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so and by contrast, the Enterprise D is 642.5 meters.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's pretty long.
Yeah. And that concludes our review of Star Trek Enterprise Season 4, Episode 10, Daedalus.
Okay then, so Nate, I suppose the obvious question here is to ask what it is that has attracted you to Star Trek. What has inspired you in Star Trek?
What has inspired me? I don't know if there's anything like specific, like any one thing that's really inspired me in Star Trek. I will say, so growing up as a kid, I identified with Data very much on Star Trek: The Next Generation. I started watching that when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9. Looking at it now, my parents probably shouldn't have let me watch it that young. I was just thinking, because some of the language and whatnot. But I found like the imaginative world. I love computers. My first computer was a Commodore 64, and somehow I wanted my Commodore 64. I had this like Sam the Talking Computer thing, so I would like have conversations with my computer. It's really very sad, and we shouldn't talk about that. But so I really like the idea of like, computers, integrated devices, all these different things, and so it kind of really set off my desire to do more with computers. In fact, it is because of watching Data in Star Trek that I wanted to learn to touch type on a computer, because how he would just like rapidly go through the, tap on those displays. I'm like, man, I want to do that with computers today. So that's actually why I worked so hard to become good at touch typing, was because of Data on Star Trek. That's very silly, I realize. But no, I really enjoyed Star Trek. I like the imagination of it, the world. I even made like paper mache Star Trek like ships as a kid a lot. In fact, I found some recently, which I will not show you because that's just embarrassing.
No. We want pictures for the website to illustrate the episode.
Well, maybe I can do that. Let me see if I can find one, because it's in a box someplace. But anyway, man, no. So I enjoyed all these things. That's just the whole world, the Roddenberry universe. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, pretty much Star Trek has kind of been just a part of me since then. In fact, I think I was deployed to Kosovo. It was like 2003, and I started buying all the seasons of Next Generation just to have. So I have all the seasons of Star Trek Next Generation and Enterprise right now. I should get I really need to work on Voyager for Michael Tennell's sake, because I know how much he loves Voyager.
Yeah.
And of course, I have all the movies. I've had to rebuy the movies now because I had them on VHS, and I have them on DVD. There's that. I have to get them on Blu-ray at some point in time, I'm sure. But yeah, so, and actually, in part, as weird as this may sound, Star Trek kind of inspired little my joining the military as well. That kind of camaraderie thing that was on, that whole duty camaraderie thing that was on the Enterprise. I kind of wanted that in real life, and in many aspects, actually, I did find that in the military, which was great. In fact, funny story, if I may do a little tangent here. So this is some time ago, 2006, I want to say. I was going to Fort Lewis up in Washington State, U.S., and there was I was waiting for my duffel bags to pop out at the terminal, because they just send us commercial air because that's cheaper. And I see this lady, this is 2006, I think it's 2006, walking in a Star Trek, like Kirk movie era Star Trek uniform. And as much as I love Star Trek, I'm like, I would never do that, because that's not how I like to express my love for Star Trek. And as she walks closer, I thought I'd be a little bit of a smart mouth and say, hey, today's the 40th anniversary of Star Trek. And this really tall man next to her goes, is that so? And it was Jonathan Frakes. And yeah, I'm like, you're Jonathan Frakes, but you know that. And I actually had a really great conversation with him. And how he's like, just how he smiles, that like beaming look that Jonathan Frakes has. I had like, he's that way in real life. Like that is Jonathan Frakes. And he just looked like a man I should give a hug to, just because but maybe not, because he might not like that. But anyway, actually I talked to him quite a while, waiting for my bags to fall off the the carousel. And I said to him, and I said, I often wish in the military the officers in the U.S. Army were as professional as those on the Enterprise. And he kind of gave me this look like, I don't know what to say here. So that's the only star I've ever actually met that I cared about.
Oh wow, that is one heck of a story.
Wow. We are now closer to, you know how they say that there's 6 degrees of separation between anyone in the world. So now we have 2 degrees of separation between us and Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nice.
I'm absolutely certain he does not remember that exchange. But
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I can go around and say I know someone who knows Jonathan Frakes.
I like since I got a Twitter. I've been meaning to want to send him a message. But I'm like, that just sounds like a weird fan thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that go, and I'll just kind of smile about that myself and talk about it on a Star Trek podcast or something. So
yeah, there you go.
But yeah,
that's nice. Wow. That's good. So you said that you started watching Star Trek with Next Gen. When did you go back to the original series, if you did?
So I watched the movies, of course. I didn't really care for motion picture as a 10-year-old. I thought it was a little bit...
yeah, I get that.
Weird. Like they could have probably cut out a good 40 minutes out of that movie and made it better. Maybe not that much, 20 minutes. But with the weird effects, the warp thing, dragging stuff out. But anyway, I have not actually watched... This is going to be kind of funny to you. I've actually only watched all of Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Those are the only series that I've actually watched all the episodes. And you're probably going to look at me and say, well, why? So I have this thing. I have not actually watched all of Season 7 of Next Generation because if I watch them all, that means there's no more left to watch. And so it's a really weird thing that I have going on right now. But now I'm thinking I might actually finish it because Picard, if it's any good, then then there's more, sort of. And I've seen most of the original series, but I've not really been quite as inspired by the original series. Some of it's just a little bit weird, but it was the 60s, so I need to kind of put myself in that frame of mind, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's if you watch the original series like you would watch Discovery, then it's not gonna work.
Yeah,
out.
I'm not watching Discovery.
Not watching
Picard.
Discovery.
Yeah, I'm just not going to.
So you've not seen any of it?
No. Mm-hmm.
Why not?
No.
I was really turned off by the Klingons, and I'm just kind of, I'm making an irrational, emotional decision, and that it bothered me. So I have this weird thing about Star Trek. I have this image in my mind of what Star Trek needs to be, and anytime it breaks out of that little image, I vapor lock. I kind of lock up. So Into Darkness, usually that Star Trek film. Star Trek-like film in 2013. Have you seen that one?
That is not the Star Trek you're looking for.
It's not. Well, that actually, it really upset me the way they used Khan in that one. And so I won't I won't watch it again. I'm really weird about this. It's really, I have these really weird things about me that I don't necessarily want to talk about because it's weird, but and I don't fully understand it. But anything that kind of breaks a certain, I have the technical manuals of Next Generation and all these other things.
Yeah.
So I really want my Star Trek world to be a certain way, and anytime it breaks some of that, I have a lockup on it, and so it's better for me just to leave that compartmentalized and not touch it because it just upsets me. It's like when they killed Optimus Prime in Transformers, the cartoon, as a kid. That messed me up for Transformers for the next 20 years. So it's one of those things. I just don't want to mess with that, this world I've created in my mind of what I want Star Trek to be.
I get that. I'm very similar with that with the film series. So I will watch the first 7 films on repeat until the day I die. I would happily do that, no problems whatsoever. The true Next Gen films, so starting from First Contact onwards, and the J.J. Abrams films, the reboot films, they've never really done it for me. They haven't, and I think that's possibly because it's like when you hear a song on the radio, I'm going to say on the radio, and it's a song that's really popular, and then you discover that song is actually a cover of another song. And then you listen to the cover and think, oh, that's horrible, awful. You always stick by the one that you heard first as being your source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So having seen all 6 original series films, plus the crossover number 7, those are the ones I'll always go back to. They're always the ones that I will happily revisit at any time for any amount of time. But I saw... I'm trying to think which one it was I saw. Might have been Insurrection. Oh, I don't know, a couple of months ago on telly. And I watched it, and it was just on. And I don't know whether that makes me a bad person.
No.
necessarily.
No.
But, I like the ones I like, and that's kind of where it goes. And yet when Discovery was announced, I had to try it. And when I did try it, I actually found that I really, really liked it. It kind of blew out my theory of only liking the ones that I like. And it's because of that I started watching Enterprise, started working through the first 3 seasons of Enterprise before we actually considered starting this podcast.
So I watched like some clips of Discovery, and the thing that really bothered me on it, and again, I admit I'm making an irrational, emotional decision here. I admit that. So I see where my failing is. I'm sure Data and Spock and T'Pol are all disappointed with me as I'm saying this. But what bothered me was like Gene Roddenberry had these rules about what the future's supposed to be. And there's one of them is like the bridge crew can't have a conflict. Like they can't have like a conflict that affects they're supposed to be friends, okay? Like not friends necessarily, but like have good working relationships. And I felt like with a lot of the clips and a lot of things about like Discovery, it didn't have that. It didn't have like that. When I watched some clips of it, it didn't have that kind of like pull with the characters that I think the other series, even Voyager, had. So that's again, it's a mostly irrational decision. Maybe I'll change my mind in like 20 years when I'm old.
Well, then actually that becomes rational, because the first thing that happened in Discovery was a mutiny on the bridge.
Yeah.
And that breaks my Gene Roddenberry. Like all other sci-fi, and actually I'm not a big sci-fi fan actually. I like some sci-fi, but I'm not a big sci-fi fan because they're all very dystopian except for Gene Roddenberry. Like what other like I watched it's on Amazon Prime now, but it was on Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah, it was that good. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But essentially it was like there was a conflict between Earth and Mars and the Belters and the Expanse. That's what it is.
All right.
And it was, so I mean, I watched that in its entirety, but like it actually depressed me. And after I shouldn't say, I'm not a depressive person, but it kind of brought my mood down. It kind of changed my mood to kind of a lesser positive mood. And the way I would combat that is I would watch one episode of The Expanse and then I'd watch The Next Generation because I didn't want to have that negative taste in my mouth. Does that make any sense? Like when I watch Next Generation or even Deep Space Nine or to a lesser extent Voyager or the original series or Enterprise, there's a positive overtone to it. It's a message of hope. It's a message of the future. Somehow we're all going to get through this. We're all going to make it out, and we're going to be all right. That's the message that when I watch Star Trek, when I watch something, that's the message I want. If the movie or the show, whatever it is, doesn't give me that message, like when I leave the theater or I leave whatever, and I don't have that, I feel good about the future, I'm sorry, you're not a good movie. I don't care if the acting is great and the effects are awesome and the writing is good. If you write it and then afterwards I'm just kind of let down, I'm sorry, I can't do that. The world is negative enough. I've seen enough of the negativity in the world. I want to have something positive and uplifting, and that's why I like the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek. So that's actually really, that's why I love Star Trek.
That makes a lot of sense. I completely agree with that.
So I'm going to have to ask you this question. I'm pretty certain I've mentioned this on every single episode we've done so far. Have you seen The Orville?
No, I have to get a TV at some point in time. Like I don't have any like way of like watching. I mean, I have a TV, but it doesn't have TV. It's got like Netflix, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't actually have it. I've seen clips of it, and it made me laugh. And I'm told it's more in tune with the Star Trek than Discovery was. But I don't know. I never actually followed up on that, so I can't say for sure.
Absolutely, it's much more lighthearted. I mean, it's kind of the original series with more comedy, but it's not a comedy. It's not intended as a comedy. It's Seth MacFarlane is the man behind pretty much every single element of the program, so you'd expect it to be slapstick, juvenile humor, and there's a tiny soupçon, if I might be permitted to use that word, of slapstick humor and comedy in there. But actually, it's probably closer to Star Trek than some Star Trek series are.
I still haven't found a way to watch the Orville, but
well, we don't yet know where season 3 is going to end up in the outside the US, because I think it's going on to Hulu in the US, because it's a Fox program. Fox owns Hulu.
Okay.
So I don't know how that's going to come across outside of the US, because I don't think Hulu exists outside the US. So
DVDs?
DVDs. It could end up on Amazon Prime with Picard. I don't know. So we'll see. But if you do get the opportunity to see it, there's probably episodes of it on YouTube.
Yeah, probably. But I'd be very annoyed if it was on DVD, because I don't have any DVD player anywhere this time.
I just picked one up.
I'm looking around, but
again,
I have 1, 2, I have 3, 4 computers in this house.
None of them have a DVD player.
And none of them have a DVD player.
Be disappointing and have to go and to buy one just for the purposes of watching one TV series.
Exactly. I can't 3D print one, so I have to buy one.
You probably could.
Yeah, I have mine right here. It's a caddy for this laptop I'm on, so I can actually put it in whenever I need it. It's been in this drawer for a while.
Yeah.
I have to buy some more DVDs again or something.
Yeah. Just to use it.
To rip it. And then
buy the Orville, rip it, and send it to Yannick.
Yeah, do that.
Obviously, we're not endorsing piracy or format shifting or anything like that.
Right, I don't want to endorse any piracy either. But, if you happen to watch at the same time I do,
Yeah, see? It's not illegal in Switzerland to download things, so I would not be in trouble.
Yannick.
Yes?
Is it that time?
I guess it's that time.
I think it's that time.
It is the time. Nate, do you know what's coming up?
My clock says 16:51, so I have no idea.
It's time for the rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
Are you ready?
I'm rubbing my hands together right now.
You ready? Yeah, nobody's ready. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody's ready for the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay. I've heard the rules before, but I don't necessarily retain them. I'm not good at retaining rules.
That's why there are no rules, so don't worry about it. Okay. So 7 questions, quick fire answers.
Okay.
First thing that comes into your head. Okay, right. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Favorite series?
Next Generation.
Favorite film?
Ooh. See, I got a bunch of these names that are trying to jam through the doorway at once. But if I have to pick one film, probably it's going to be First Contact, actually.
Choose the second one.
Choose the second one? Actually, it would be 6, Undiscovered Country. I love the dialogue in that. The McCoy working on the torpedo with Spock there at the end. It's got a heartbeat, and that whole everything was just. I love that. And actually, that the ending makes me kind of sad. The second star to left and straight on till morning. Okay, I totally went past this rapid fire thing. But anyway, it was such like a heartwarming, sweet ending to the movie. To that cast, and I think that movie is a complete package there. Especially, it's a great wrap up for the original cast, I think.
Definitely. Now, I haven't been asked these rapid fire questions yet. Just saying, Yannick. But I think Undiscovered Country would be in the running for it, certainly. Favorite ship?
Enterprise D. I would, if I could live on that ship, I would. And that sounds really weird.
Yeah. No, it's really nice. It's got plenty of holodecks. It's
anywhere you want it to be, couldn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Favorite or best captain?
I'm going to go with Picard. And this is why. So, as I've grown up over the years, and Star Trek's been in my life, I've actually slowly seen how the way Picard handles situations, although sometimes unrealistic because there's no way a man can be that good. Like I say, like, that's someone to aspire to be like. You know, to keep that cool, calm. You know, you don't lose your cool very often. You know, just you're a solid. He's a solid leader. And I even have a book that's leadership principles of Captain Picard here. I haven't finished reading it yet. A buddy let me borrow it a while ago, and I probably won't give it back to him. Borrow, air quotes. But yeah, so I would say he would be my favorite captain for sure.
So I'm just making a note of that book, add that to my reading list. Favorite or best character?
I'm gonna have to go with Data. He's my favorite because how he views the world, his world, and the difficulties he has, I've been able to relate to those, and that's been kind of a way that's helped me in my youth, kind of go through those uncomfortable, I think he said passing through sentience, you know, when you go through these different stages in life, because I would consider myself culturally slow. I've kind of been an alien in my own culture because I grew up in, my parents are immigrants coming to the U.S., and I never actually felt like I was in like a true... I was never accused of being an American until I went to the Netherlands, and I was called a Yank for the first time, and that actually made me smile. Anyway, but so I've always kind of felt like alien to my own culture, and it just it kind of helped me to, I don't know, to navigate my childhood, I guess.
It's really insightful.
Yeah.
Favorite
storyline. So this can be an arc, an episode, or a film segment, or even a film itself.
All right, I think one of my I knew you were going to ask this one, and I said I'll decide right at that moment. But I think I'm going to go with
people keep saying they're expecting these questions, but they never have answers ready.
Yeah, well, Tapestry would be the from Next Generation, where Picard dies in the beginning, and he meets God, which is Q, and he says, and a lot of great lines in that one. One being where Picard says, "You are not God. I can't believe the universe is so badly designed." And he's allowed to fix his youth, like to go back in time and relive it and tidy up some of the loose threads on his tapestry. And when he does that, basically his entire world unravels apart. And when he realizes that, it makes me think of like some of the mistakes that I've made throughout my life. You know, if I were to maybe undo some of those mistakes, maybe I wouldn't be the person who I am today. You know, I might not be, who knows, whatever that might be. Like, should I have done different route? You know, maybe at, those pivotal points in my life. And so that to me, that particular episode, especially when I'm feeling a little down about something, that's an episode I might put on. Some people put on like a CD or, music to make them feel better. I put on Star Trek. And that kind of helps remind me that, I am who I am by the sum of my decisions. And yeah, I may have made some really bad decisions, but that's made me who I am today. And I should be more content and at peace with who I am. And I think that's really what the message that kind of comes down from that episode of Tapestry. And that's why I love that very much.
Yeah.
Excellent
response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, final one that seems to catch most people. Favorite or best villain?
So is Q considered a villain?
Yes.
Any character
because
could
they
be
picked him.
A villain.
Well, yeah. Nope, not him. And I would tell you that nope, not him. I'll just tell about it because there's actually more.
Not Q.
No,
The answer is not Q.
on Deep Space Nine, he played the Vorta that you saw all the time. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but what's his name? He was the Vorta. He also played who Captain Archer gets into the knife fight with in the next episode that you're going to review. Oh man, what is his name? How could I forget his name? Dang. Wayun.
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 Okay. Yes,
is probably one of my favorite villains. Because, and I think it's because of the actor and how he portrays the character that I really like. Every time he is on the screen on Deep Space Nine, I get excited because of just how he throws everything off balance, just his way of processing the situations. And he's just kind of like this insidious character, but he's not like super bad, but he's bad. You know, he's working for the enemy, obviously, for the the Dominion. But he's just like, he's almost like he's not entirely bad. You know, he's like, he's doing his duty and he's bad, but he's not, there's some goodness in him somewhere. And just the actor that plays him, he's one of my favorite Star Trek, like, reoccurring actors.
Wei-Young is kind of like Q. Q is doing things because he wants to do things, and that's it. But I consider him somewhat a villain, the villain you like to hate.
Yeah, but you also like to like too.
Yeah. He's got his good moments.
Because he's not all bad either. You know, because Q.
I totally understand your choice.
Yeah. So Q, he kept everyone on their toes almost. Like, he was kind of like a litmus test of the characters at that time. You know, he would put Picard in his place, because Picard, you know, he's the boss man and nobody challenges him, and he would challenge Picard, and I really like that exchange when Picard is really challenged, you know, by, you know, a godlike creature. It's fun. It's a nice, the Battle of the Wits, I guess, the Battle of Wills, I should say. Mm-hmm. That's why I enjoyed that. But I would have loved to have seen like a Picard and a Wai-Yun exchange. Like, I wish Next Generation would have gone longer in parallel with Deep Space Nine instead of starting Voyager. I think that would have been, crossovers between those two series and the Dominion War, and kind of I think that would have been a missed opportunity is what that is. That is a missed opportunity of great television, great writing. Wai-Yun.
Excellent answers.
Little bit of trivia.
Okay.
The actor that plays Wai-Yun is the same actor that plays Shran.
Yes.
Yeah, he played lots of roles on different Star Trek series.
He played some Ferengis too.
Mm. Yeah. Jeffrey Combs is his name.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our rapid fire questions. Shall we then move on with the rest of the show? So thank you to everyone who downloaded our previous episodes. I'm going to look in real time at a number that I would like to confirm. But yes, we have now 444, all fours, downloads of our previous episodes. So thank you, everyone.
And also thank you to anybody who has started listening to us, having seen Yannick and I at OggCamp last weekend.
Absolutely.
We believe that we have observed the OggCamp effect, whereby our listener figures jumped through the roof whilst we were actually sitting in one of the conferences at OggCamp. So if you are a new listener to our show, then you are very welcome. It's really good to have you along.
Yes, absolutely. If you're listening, then you've already found our show. We are in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, and everywhere else. If by any chance you find somewhere we are not, please get in contact with us, and we will try to go there. Please help us spread the word by sharing the show on social media, talking about it on your blog, on your Google Plus account, or on your MySpace page. If you
project the website address on the side of your house.
Yes, that would be a very, very great idea. And take pictures and send that to us.
So make like a Geocities fan page of it.
Yes. Yes, with Blinky and things like and scroller at the top of the page. Yes. A marquee, yeah.
Times New Roman and Kelvin Sands.
I'll dedicate a BBS just for this as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
And if you're so inclined, leave us a nice review in your podcast app.
Do not forget, you can find all of our shows, our show notes, and pretty much everything you can ever want to know about this particular show over at our website, which is tearlgreyhot.org.
When our droplet on digitalization is not broken. Well, that was my fault, actually. You can send us an email at feedback@tearlgreyhot.org. And if there is something in your email that you don't want us to read, please state so, because if you don't tell us anything, we might end up reading your email on the show.
We are on the social networks, those that are left, that is. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. Our username there is TEGH Podcast. We're also on Telegram. Please do come and join us and join in the conversation there. We're pretty active, talking, 24 hours a day. We're an international chat room. You can find that over at t.me/TEGH Podcast.
We're also on Mastodon, on the mastodon.social instance, at TEGH Podcast is also our handle on this network.
Thanks, as always, to Memory Alpha. We have based our review of this week's episode on their work, and that is released under a Creative Commons by attribution non-commercial license.
And the rest of the show, unless otherwise stated, is released under a Creative Commons by attribution share-alike license, which means you can do whatever you want with it, as long as you credit us as the original authors, and if you publish something based on this episode, you have to release it under the same license.
This podcast is a part of the Other Side Podcast Network. You can find more of our rather amazing shows over at otherside.network.
More and more shows every month. we get new shows on this network. It's really great. Next episode will be a review of Enterprise episode 11 of season 4, Observer Effect, plus our usual fortnightly news roundup.
And I should really say that had I not gone to OggCamp last week, I would probably be found in Birmingham this coming weekend. On the 25th and 27th of October is the Destination Star Trek event in Birmingham at the NEC. So if you are going to that this weekend, enjoy yourselves.
Yes. Well, all that's left to do is to say thank you to our guest. Thanks, Nate, for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a real pleasure to have you.
Yeah, this was great. I've been excited about this for since you asked me, which was almost 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so it's been yeah.
Well, the chances are we'll be inviting you back at some time in the future, but we'll give you less notice. So that
that's fine. That's fine.
So that it doesn't affect you for long periods of time.
Right.
Well, how about giving him more notice?
Because
we already know
it's fine. Less, more. It's whatever.
We already know that. I hope you're seated, and because this is really exciting news. We already know that between our last review of Enterprise and the first review of Picard, we have 1 week that we won't be reviewing any Enterprise and we won't be reviewing Picard. So how about you come back in January with us and those who already said that they would be there. So that includes, I think, Ryan, Michael, Jason, and Ro. So all of our guests, basically. We're going to review the Lizard episode of Star Trek Voyager. Do you want to join us?
I will absolutely do my best to be there. I just got to check my calendar. But yes, I would love to be there. That'd be great.
Nice. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
But yes, thank you very much indeed for being with us. It's been really good.
Where can people find information about you, Nate?
I do have a one of them websites that all the kids have these days. It's CubicleNate.com, and I have just the site is basically just a where I put all my notes. So it's not always well written or completely thought out because I haven't completely thought things out. But I do some technical writing there, and I Linuxy stuff. And there I do have and if you just go there, you can find links to other stuff. Like I do have I have some YouTube stuff, and then I have a podcast as well. And I recently joined the Destination Linux Network, and there'll be a podcast called DLN Extend that I'll be hosting with Eric Adams, and we'll be dissecting different topics from other Destination Linux shows a little bit further, kind of digging into it, a PK unzip, as it were, of other topics.
Excellent. That's really good news.
Excellent, yes.
It's good to see the Destination Linux network growing, even though it's fairly new. Its existence has always been, if that makes sense. So It's good to see it growing.
Well, I guess that wraps up this episode. Dear listeners, thank you for listening. We will catch you next week for episode 11. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Ciao, ciao.
See ya.
See yous.
You've been listening to a member of the Otherside Podcast Network. Find more about our shows at otherside.network.